They say love isn't always loud. Sometimes, it hides in the softest moments, the quiet laughter while cooking, the shared glances between chaos, or the way someone lifts you, not just off the floor but out of your worries. This is my story. The story of how my husband lifted me back into love, right in the middle of our kitchen. That morning began like any other. The soft hum of the fridge, the smell of toast, and the faint clatter of dishes filled the air. I moved through the kitchen mechanically, flipping eggs, stirring tea, my thoughts wandering somewhere else entirely. Across the counter sat Ayan, my husband. He was dressed for work, crisp white shirt, sleeves rolled up, hair slightly messy. He looked good, but distant. The man who once made me laugh over burnt pancakes now barely smiled at breakfast. "Did you pack my file?" he asked without looking up from his phone. "It's on the table," I replied softly. Our words were short, careful, like we were walking on glass. I tried to fill the silence with the sound of a spoon against the cup, but it didn't help. It had been months since we'd really talked, really looked at each other. He stood, adjusted his tie, and picked up his coffee mug. "I'll be late tonight," he said. I nodded, pretending to be busy, when really, I was just holding myself together. He left a faint bye on his way out. The door clicked shut behind him, and the echo lingered longer than usual. When the silence finally settled, I leaned against the counter and let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. Love wasn't supposed to feel like this. It wasn't supposed to be heavy. But ours had become quiet, like a beautiful song that had somehow forgotten its tune. That evening, while putting away dishes, I opened an old drawer to find a misplaced spoon, and instead found a photograph. A little faded, edges curled, but instantly familiar. It was us years ago, standing in the same kitchen, covered in flour and laughing uncontrollably. It was from the day we moved in. I remembered that day clearly. I was trying to reach the top shelf, and Ayan had walked up behind me, laughing as he said, "Here, let me help." Before I could argue, he lifted me onto the counter. I'd yelped in surprise, but then we both burst into laughter. It was such a silly, innocent moment, but it became one of my favorites. Because that's when I'd realized how safe I felt with him. Now, looking at the picture, I couldn't stop the ache rising in my chest. When did we stop being that couple? When did laughter turn into silence? When did love start feeling like a task instead of a choice? Hours later, I heard the door unlock. Ayan walked in, shoulders heavy from the day. His eyes fell on the photo resting on the counter. He froze. "You kept this?" he asked quietly. "I found it today," I replied. We looked happy. He didn't speak right away. His expression softened, almost regretful. We still are, he said after a moment. "Just different." "Different how?" I asked. He sighed, placing his briefcase aside. "I guess we got lost somewhere. Between bills, deadlines, and responsibilities. We started counting what's missing instead of what's still here." I looked at him, really looked. The tired eyes, the lines near his smile, the weight of unspoken guilt. It wasn't that he didn't love me anymore. He just didn't know how to show it. "I miss us, Ayan," I whispered. He nodded, his voice low and honest. "I miss you too, Mira." Something in that confession broke the wall between us. We didn't fix everything that night. We didn't even hug. We just sat there, two people finally acknowledging the distance they'd both been avoiding. The next morning, I woke to a strange smell. Something burning. I rushed to the kitchen, half asleep, and there was Ayan, standing at the stove, holding a spatula like a sword, staring at a very blackened omelet. "Okay," he said with mock seriousness. "I officially admit defeat." I couldn't help but laugh. "Who told you to invade my kitchen?" "I wanted to make you breakfast," he said, grinning. "A peace offering." He handed me a plate with a misshapen omelet and 2 slightly burnt toasts. It looked terrible. It tasted worse, but it made me smile wider than I had in months. Because it wasn't about the food, it was about the effort. Later that afternoon, he asked, "Want to make lunch together?" I agreed. Cooking with Ayan was chaos. He chopped vegetables too big, spilled sauce everywhere, and mistook sugar for salt at one point. But the laughter that filled our kitchen that day felt like oxygen. I'd missed that sound, his laugh, mine blending with it. When I reached for the spice jar on the upper shelf, I stretched my arm and grumbled, "Still can't reach this thing." Without saying a word, Ayan walked over. His hands gently found my waist as he said, "Allow me." And before I knew it, he lifted me onto the counter. I froze for a second, my breath catching, not because of surprise, but because of the memory it brought back. That same gesture from years ago. That same spark. He looked up at me with a soft smile. "Just like before," I whispered. "Maybe it's time we start again," he replied. In that moment, surrounded by laughter, flower, and sunlight streaming through the window, it felt like something inside us had quietly clicked back into place. That evening, rain began to fall outside. I brewed coffee for us, and we sat by the window, watching droplets race down the glass. The scent of rain, the gentle rumble of thunder, it all felt comforting. Ayan took a sip and smiled. "Remember the first rain after our wedding?" I laughed. "You made me run outside barefoot. And you yelled at me for 3 days," he teased. "You deserved it," I said playfully. We laughed again, softer this time. The kind of laugh that carried healing. Then his tone shifted. "Mira, I know I've been distant. Work's been crazy. But that's not an excuse. I never stopped caring. I just forgot how to show it." I looked down, blinking back tears. "And I stopped reminding you," I said quietly. He reached across the table, his hand brushing mine in a way that felt new and familiar all at once. "Let's not wait for anniversaries to feel close again," he said. "Let's make every ordinary day special. Even burnt toast days." I smiled. "Deal." The days that followed weren't perfect. We still argued about little things. Laundry, traffic, who forgot to water the plants. But the difference was, we were trying again. The laughter was back, the small texts, the random "did you eat" messages. Sometimes he'd leave a note on the fridge that said, "You're my favorite chaos." Sometimes I'd reply by drawing a little heart next to it. It wasn't grand. It wasn't dramatic. But it was real. Love, I realized, isn't measured by how loud it is. It's measured by how much quieter your heart becomes when you know you're safe. Months passed. Seasons changed. One evening, I stood in the kitchen, watching Ayan lean against the same counter, sipping tea. He looked up at me, smiling that familiar smile. "You know, this counter should probably get an award. It's seen more emotions than any therapist." I laughed. "Maybe it should charge us rent." He chuckled and, as if by instinct, reached for me again, lifting me gently onto the counter. It wasn't about needing to reach anything. It was just our thing now. Our unspoken way of saying we're okay. I looked down at him, the man I'd loved, lost, and found again, all without leaving our home. "You still lift me like it's easy," I said softly. He looked up, eyes warm. "It's always easy when it's you."